and welcome to Thorogood's webinar, the One-Stop Shop Report Catalog. My name is Lisa Brogan. I'm a consultant with Thorogood based out of the U.S., and presenting with me today will be my colleague, Atulya Ramamurthy, a consultant based out of London. We're constantly seeing breakthroughs in business intelligence and what we can deliver. As businesses bring more and more information into the business, users are more often than not faced with the challenge of having massive amounts of information available to them, but not being able to keep track of exactly what that information is that's available, when it is updated, and where they can go to get it. You can see in these statistics from a workplace productivity survey that most workers face challenges in getting the information that they need when they need it in order to remain productive. Today we will talk about some of those common challenges of managing reports and information, and we'll explain a solution that we've developed, which we call a report catalog, that brings them together in a way that takes away the guesswork and gives business decision makers the power of having everything that they need right at their fingertips. We'd like to make most of this session demonstration-based. I'll continue with just a little bit more by way of introductions, and then we'll start to have a look at a sample report catalog that we built and what it can offer. We'll first look at the features of the catalog overall and what it can be set up to do, and then look at how this can be tailored to individual users. Then I'll turn things over to Atulya, who will show you how this solution eliminates additional burdens on IT and how it empowers users to find more information for themselves. We'll conclude with some of the business value that we've seen from a solution like this in practice. Just a bit more about Thorogood. We are a global business intelligence and analytics consulting firm, and we're a global pool of consultants operating as a single integrated organization across the 3 different countries that we span. We work with clients in a variety of sectors, in particular consumer packaged goods and retail, financial services and insurance, and pharmaceuticals and healthcare. In terms of technology, Thorogood is an independent consultancy. The technology landscapes at our clients are nearly always a heterogeneous mix of tools, and so we partner or work with all of the major software vendors, as well as smaller targeted business intelligence technologies. We are Microsoft Gold certified partners, and the solution that we'll be looking at today has been built using Microsoft SharePoint. And we've seen it used at clients to integrate not only with Microsoft analytic tools, but also reporting tools from other vendors such as Oracle, Business Objects, and ClickView. In fact, it's that diversity of technology that can really present challenges to our clients. Many companies will have more than one technology for delivering structured or transactional reporting, but let's pretend for the sake of simplicity that you're working with only one, say just Business Objects. When a user wants information, that user logs on to the system or opens up whichever dashboard has the reports that he or she is looking for to start with. And then they find something interesting that they'd like to share with a colleague. In order to do that, they'll probably have several different options. Quite often what we see are that people will save that report perhaps as a PDF or an Excel file and then email it to their colleague. In reality, though, even if you truly have only one technology where you're delivering interactive or IS-supported reporting, users are getting information from all over the place. And most often they store it in the safe and familiar sources of Excel or PowerPoint. Then these documents are saved to file shares or emailed out to many more colleagues, and you start to get a pretty messy web of information delivery. I'm sure that whether you work in IT or in a business function, you can think of some of the problems that this leads to. Multiple copies of a file will float around, but some of those copies were produced at different times, and so they've got slightly different numbers in them. Plus, all of the files that you then have floating around via email attachments become too large to be stored in your inbox anyway. Or maybe if people are more disciplined and do keep things on the server, either by connecting directly to live reports or by accessing a file share or SharePoint, those users have too many disparate places to go to actually get information. One set of reports is stored in one SharePoint document library, another has to be opened from your reporting services or ClickView or Business Objects server homepage, and yet more gets stored as workbooks in a file share somewhere. All of this becomes a headache for users to keep track of where they want to go. And it's also a headache for IT to maintain as new people request access to different sorts of information or as existing users request new information to be added. So all of these are the sorts of things that then lead to workers spending 51% of their time sorting through information rather than making decisions based on it. We've actually had clients come to us asking for a solution to this exact challenge. And this is where we came up with the concept of the one-stop shop report catalog that we'll show you today. The report catalog concept allows you to bring together your live reports, or really anything with a web URL, and all of the Excel or PDF or PowerPoint or all of your documents into one single location, and give you a way to search and filter and scan through all of them regardless of what type of file they are, so that users will only ever need to log into that one single location to find what they're looking for. So what do you get out of using this report catalog approach? First of all, there's the benefit of using it to simplify delivery to one consolidated location. Secondly, I mentioned that what we developed was using Microsoft SharePoint, though in fact we do have clients who have done this without SharePoint. But if you were to go the SharePoint route, you can also use out-of-the-box SharePoint features such as version control and alerts and workflows and search, to name a few, to help you along the way. Finally, Ophelia will be speaking more about the concept of using this for discovery, but really users can search the report catalog to help them find information even if they're not exactly sure what exactly they're looking for, and once they've found it, they can request access to it. So it's putting a lot of power back into the hands of the business users and eliminating some of the wait time associated with formal IS requests. Now that I've explained the basic concept, I will actually show you a sample report catalog that we put together in Microsoft SharePoint 2013. This sample is for an insurance company who are using this catalog for both access to analytics as well as a lot of standard and structured reports. So the reports that you'll see in this insurance catalog are a mix of live reporting services and ClickView reports, along with important shared files from Microsoft Office. One moment to bring it up on the iPad. So here's the home page of the report catalog. And one of our clients said as we were developing this, I really want this to behave just like Google when a user logs in. We want it to suggest the most important and most visited items so that we can open them immediately, and to give us the ability to search for anything else that we might want in addition to what's shown by default. So you can see that the main content portion of this page, that's basically what we did, down to the fact that you have the previews of individual reports showing, so that at a glance, people are able to recognize and navigate to the important information. So you can open up one of the reports that's displaying simply by clicking on it. I'll choose Scenario Calculations, and you can see that it opens up this Excel file in a separate tab within my browser, so that I'm able to look at it there. And when I'm finished, I can close that or just move back to the home page to find more information. And actually what I'm interested to find today is the Underwriter Snapshot report, which I didn't see here when I first logged in, so I'm going to search for it. Start by searching for Underwriter. And you can see that I have several different results showing up here, and in fact the Underwriter Snapshot ClickView report is one of them. Perhaps I get to the catalog and I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking for, but I know that I want to find a report that shows me total premium and it's updated on a daily basis. I can use these filters on the left-hand side of the page to select those things. So I'm looking for total premium and a daily report, and you can see that the results are refreshing to show me reports that are related to that. I see 3 different reports showing up here. This product analysis report in the middle looks interesting, but I'm not exactly sure if it's what I'm looking for. So I'll click on the little eye icon for information on the right-hand side of the tile, and you'll see as this comes up that it gives me more information about that particular report so that I can understand if it's what I'm looking for and if it sounds useful. So I can see a preview of the report to see the sorts of information that's in it, and I can also see some additional information that's been entered by the owner of the report, a basic description of the report, as well as some other sorts of metadata, in particular questions that the report might answer. This one I see is going to tell me about how total premium is spread across different product lines, for example, and that is something that I was interested in. And so from here, I could open up that report and actually view it. Once I open it, I can either open this report from this page by clicking View Report, Or if I'd like to share it with someone else, I can use the email link button on the top right-hand portion of the page to share this with a colleague. You'll see that as I do this, it's actually bringing up an email with just a link to the report, not an attachment on the email, which means that you'll always be pointing to the latest version of the report, and it's more secure and it's smaller in size than emailing attachments around. So just to stop for a moment, what we've seen so far is that the catalog allows you to go to one location and get your reports quickly from there. And as we looked at the catalog, the focus wasn't on what sort of document file or report type you were looking at. You were still able to see that, but the catalog information is driven much more by the business case behind the report than whether or not you're trying to look for an Excel document or a ClickView report. There are just a few more features that are worth pointing out from my side of things, particularly around tailoring the report catalog to individual users. We have encountered resistance from some users on using a system like this. Some people really like the way that they get reports currently. They like that as soon as a report has been refreshed, the new version is emailed to their inbox, or they like the concept of the report catalog in general, but they're frustrated because they don't want to have to search for their underwriter snapshot report, for example, like I did, every time that they need it. So how can we make this experience better for those sorts of people? There are several different ways that users can interact with the catalog in addition to this first home page that I've shown. First of all, we've created the My Reports page, which you can see as a tab across the top. And as I go to that, I'll see a list of every single one of the reports that I have access to with more information about each one of those reports. If I go back to that information page that I had open before, on that detailed information page, there were more options than just viewing the report and emailing the report to a colleague. So as I go to that detailed information page, you'll see that I also have the option to add it to my favorites, for example, which stops me having to search for it every time. So I could have done this with that underwriter snapshot report, for example. I just click Add to Favorites. It tells me that it's added to my favorites. And if I click on the My Favorites tab, you'll see that that product analysis report that I was just looking at the details for is now part of my list of favorites reports. So this is quite a personal view. You can put as many reports on here as you'd like, and it can be your home page rather than the main home page of the catalog, for example, if you want to use this to access the reports that you've bookmarked and would like to open on a frequent basis. And as this list grows, you can see that you still have the search functionality available to you so that you're able to look through even if you have quite a few things on here. If I go back to that detailed information page just one more time for the product analysis report, you'll also see that I have the option to add a report alert. And what this does is satisfies users who are looking for to know as soon as the latest version of a report is available. So I would like to have an alert sent to both myself and Athulia, for example, every time that is I going to find it? Yeah, there we go. Email myself and Athulia every time that new version of the product analysis report is available. You can see I can choose email or text message and the frequency with which I'd like to be updated. And if I save this, then I would get an email similar to the one that I showed you earlier, giving me a link to the report as soon as a new version of it is available. So let me switch back to my slides. There we go. To recap, there are definite benefits to using a catalog approach to manage information. As you saw, when you're searching for the reports, you're able to search by things that have business value, the report frequency or the metric that you're looking for, rather than having to search by ClickView report versus reporting services report, which in fact really should be transparent to the user anyway. I mentioned that we took navigation inspirations from Google, and you might have noticed that the filter criteria on the left-hand side of that home page mimics filtering in online shopping. So this navigation is pretty intuitive to most users by now. One of the great things about this is the fact that there is a very small learning curve to using it. And a big benefit of it from a user perspective is that IT could decide to roll out a whole new suite of reports But if they deliver those reports directly through this type of portal, then there's no training needed for users in terms of how they access those new reports as they become available. You'll notice that I did that entire demonstration from my iPad, though I could have easily done the exact same thing from my desktop as well. This mobile-friendly design was an absolute must for our clients because their executives often prefer using their iPads to the exclusion of their laptops, especially as they go into meetings. Actually, in a conversation with one user this week, she pointed out to me that they were going to be adding even more documents to the catalog because she found it to be by far the easiest way to access Office documents and PDFs on the iPad. And if you think about it, it's true. Since most mobile devices don't have a method for storing documents, having a single central location like this to retrieve documents easily is really handy in a mobile version. In terms of personalization, that combination of the individual bookmarks in favorites and also the alerts for report updates means that you can still gather information immediately after it becomes available and customize the site to be more useful to your own individual needs. So if you look at this combination of the one-stop shop, intuitive navigation, mobile support, and the ability to personalize the site, you've got quite a valuable tool that users are really happy to adopt. Hopefully that was useful and interesting as an overview, and I'll turn the floor over to Athulia, who can tell us more about some additional features on maintaining the catalog and keeping it secure.
Thank you, Lisa. So, till now what we've seen is a very brief look at how the report catalog can help business users who know what they're looking for and would just like a nice, sleek, single-point interface to get to the information.
To unmute your line,
now let's see how such a catalog can also help information discovery, that is, help users explore and find reports that could be really useful to them, even when they aren't exactly clear of how these reports are stored or even aware of these reports and how to get access to them. But before that, let's take a moment to recap how users might go about looking for information in a non-catalog or a traditional scenario. Let's say I'm a user and I have been brought into the department to follow up on the open policies and help plan or forecast future business for the next few months, say to a year. I'm looking for information on premiums and would like the split by unearned and uncollected premiums if possible. So obviously I want to know what's available. Okay, so apparently there are many reports available in multiple formats. Some also seem to be mailed out to the users, so I'm not very sure whom I should ask to get access to those. There are also a few live analytical reports hosted on a few servers, which I could possibly go through to see if they have the information I'm looking for. But I have really got no idea which servers these are or what the access URLs are. Okay, so I ask around a little more, get a few URLs and locations which might be useful. But wait, I don't have access to most of them. Now what do I do? At this point, is it a good idea to go and ask IT about which reports provide what information? Probably not. Maybe I should speak to somebody in the business, but I'm not sure who. Finally, not getting anywhere, I decide maybe I should just ask somebody from the IT team to build a new report to suit my analysis. But then there's the important question of how long is this actually going to take? So as you can see, very quickly a simple request for some information can draw one into a very long-drawn process that might take hours or even days to get to the end of. So how might this be different in a catalog-enabled scenario? Let's go back to the catalog. So what we have here is the same catalog that Lisa was taking us through, but I have it on a PC, whereas she was demonstrating that on the iPad. As you can see, the UI is very similar. It's the same website that you're accessing on both environments. So I have logged in as a user, and I want to see what reports are available to me, because obviously I need information on uncollected and unearned premiums. There are a few reports I can see on my home page, but none of them seem to be helpful. So let's go to the My Report section, which gives me a bigger list of reports. Again, as Lisa mentioned earlier, these are reports that I have permissions for and access. So in these list of reports, are there anything that seem interesting to me? Uncollected, unearned premiums. So let's quickly filter and see if there's anything useful. No. So since I haven't found what I want here, I could maybe try the full catalog, which is a complete list of reports, including those that I have permission for and those that I don't. So let's go there. Okay, so here I can see a much longer list, which is quite encouraging. Now I want to see which of these contain information about uncollected or unearned premiums. Brilliant. Okay, so there are about 2 or 3 of these that might be interesting to me. Thankfully, there are questions and descriptions for each of these reports out here, which sort of gives me an idea of what sort of information is held in these reports without my actually having to open the report to see it. So I can see here that the Am I Reporting Home report, for instance, it gives me information on premium details, what's outstanding, etc., what we expect to earn over the course of the year. Good. So that might be a good start for me. So let's look at the further details around the report. Brilliant. So I can see that it gives me a lot of information about a lot of different measures like unearned premium, total premium, etc., which is brilliant. The questions it answers seem to be very relevant to me again. Now, I would like to get access to this report so I can start with my work. How do I get access to this? Who owns this? Okay, there is a user who owns this, but I don't really need to get in touch with this user outside of the catalog because I have a request access option right here. I click on that and immediately an email pops up addressed to the owner of the report and with a message that says I have requested access. Obviously I can customize this and just send through the mail, and that will end up in the report owner's inbox. Now, even if the request for my access is delayed, I know whom to follow up with. So I'm cutting out a lot of unnecessary trouble, and also I didn't really have to bother the IT team because I could get in touch directly with the report owner and get access to this report. Clearly, this is a much more streamlined, easy way to access information when I'm just discovering new things out there and I want to get myself access to these. So in this scenario, what were the advantages? First, there is much more visibility of information. Users have more power and can actually fend for themselves. Even if they don't have access to the reports, they can still search in the report metadata and find relevant reports. Then, as we saw in our example, there is a drastic reduction in the turnaround time for information access. So as you could see, I just had to search around the catalog, get to the report that I wanted, request for information, and hopefully that should come through in about a couple of hours or a day. Anytime I need supplementary information for my analysis in a similar fashion, I can search for it. I don't need to wait forever or wait through IT or business processes to get to that. This is a huge weight lifted off the IT team's shoulders. The team can be more efficient now as they're not always responding to ad hoc requests or questions from users. Also, the reports that IT have created have much more chance of getting used because they are more easily discoverable. This also means that there will be less duplication in the long run. And finally, the ownership rests with the subject matter owners rather than IT, so there will be less routine requests for changes, explanations, etc., because the subject matter owners themselves can help the other users use the report. This empowers the users, it increases ownership among the report authors, and also promotes accountability. So if you look at this overall, you've got a vast improvement over the traditional ways of sharing information in the organization. That's something that the users are bound to like. So there's better information sharing for everybody. How does security fit into all this? As we've mentioned, users are able to search and explore without actually having access to the report itself, as we saw in the demo. This allows information discovery without compromising security. Often, there will be multiple security levels. So for instance, if the catalog holds a link to an external report, the source security, that is the security at the report source and the external technology still holds true. On top of that, the link itself is secure, so the user cannot follow the link through unless he or she has sufficient permissions to do that. Now again, if it is a report that is held within the SharePoint environment itself, Security can be set at the item level, so the users would still have to be explicitly given permissions before they can open a document or a report, that is, even if they search for it. Within the catalog framework, different users can have different levels of access, and this separation allows the power users, analysts, or authors to own and manage their own reports. This places control in the hands of the business users. As long as they have permissions, users can upload their own reports and also manage the metadata around it, which means there is very little need now to go via the IT team. The admin users obviously can ensure proper use of the tool and also enforce governance. Default permissions for users can be set to the minimum required levels for secure access. Now, to make all of these reports available to users, as we saw, they have to be updated somewhere and maintained. And before we look at how this works in the context of our catalog, let's quickly review how reports are usually shared within an organization. So again, here the business case is that I'm an analyst and I have something I want to share with others in my team. However, this is a work in progress, so I also want to ensure that they get to see any updates I make to the report over the next few days or weeks. So the obvious question is, where would I put it? Would there be a file share? Or maybe I should email it out to my team? But wait, what happens when I make an update then? I'll be sending out loads and loads of versions, and that's clearly not ideal. So then maybe let me talk to the IT team to see what can be done. Now, assuming that they host this report on a server, how am I going to get the word out among the team and ensure no one else get access to it? And finally, how much time will it be before the IT team can actually action this request? So again, as in the previous scenario, it's easy to see how a simple requirement to share something with a team can turn into a rather tedious process. Now, in contrast, how does maintenance work in a catalog scenario, and what are the things that we should be aware of? So let's go back to the report catalog. And the report library is where I would add reports. So here, for starters, I can add reports into the library very quickly. I can either add a report document itself, which could be a PDF or a Word document or any Office document for that matter, or I could add a link to a report. Now, if it is a link, I can just provide the URL, and given this is a report outside of SharePoint, I can change the location, storage, or even the system name without actually impacting the users who are using it, as long as I keep the information up to date within the catalog. So now maybe let's upload a sample report. So I'm going to upload the quarterly financial results. And as soon as I upload the document, you can see I'm prompted for additional information on the report. This little prompt here is a huge value add. Everyone who I don't choose to share the report with can still access this information that I provide over here. So it is in my and everybody's best interest really that I try and provide as much information here as possible. So initially I only want analysts to use this. So let's put that there. I'm interested in this being shared only with the finance department. This is, say, monthly. I can input questions if they're relevant. Say premium, total premium, or premium, for example. I could also make someone else the owner of this report if someone else is responsible for updating and maintaining this, but in this case, let's not bother. I save it, and now this report is available down here, and I've just uploaded it. The report is now a part of the catalog and can be searched and filtered on immediately. I've added the report all right, but how do I ensure people actually get to see it? So in my traditional approach, my original scenario, I was considering maybe mailing out information to people. But obviously, we agreed that wasn't ideal. So how would I do it in this case? Let's go back to the report properties. And as you can see, there is something called a homepage order over here, which I'm going to update to 1. Click on Save. Now if I go back to my home, I can see the quarterly financial results coming up as the very first report that is shown to me when I log in. So every user who logs in and has permissions to this report will see this on their home page. So it's almost like our very own subtle announcement sections. So that gives the user the ability to see what's new in the report catalog every time they come in. I've also been talking of security. So how do I restrict this to my team alone, which was another one of my requirements? By setting permissions on this item specifically, so let's again go back to quarterly financial results. And I look at who it's been shared with. I have a list of users over here. It can either be a user or a group. If I do want to add additional users to this, I can grant permissions. And this can be done, again, based on an AD group or a SharePoint group or a particular user. I can just add it here. So if there was an AD group for the entire team that I wanted to share it with, I could put that in here, and it would automatically get shared with everybody within the team. And finally, when I'm ready to share this with, update the report with the latest version, I can just upload it again, and as long as the document name is the same, the report information itself is retained. So this is a brilliant opportunity for us to store information like quarterly financial results, which is the example here, or weekly sales report or monthly reports that get generated regularly, and the users don't really need to come and update the metadata again and again. They just need to update the actual document that goes with the metadata. And since the users always use the catalog link to get through to the report, they will always be seeing the latest version. So in this case, what were the key value adds? The use of SharePoint in this case makes it very easy to add documents or links. If set up correctly, you can even email documents to the library directly. Version support for routinely updated reports. So in case of reports like the ones we saw in quarterly financial results or weekly sales reports, you can upload later versions and they will still be associated with the relevant metadata. If someone does need to go back to a previous version, so say a month back or a week back, they can always do so by following the version history, and the same metadata will be associated with all of the different versions. And also, as we discussed during the demo, the metadata that is once entered sticks around even when the document version changes. So updating report metadata is often only a one-time job. Accessing the reports via the catalog means the users are always on the latest reports. So there is less confusion around versions and local copies being mailed around. The alert option that Lisa demonstrated earlier also allows users to be intimated every time a new version is available, which makes this process much more sleek and much easier. Evolving metadata. So as we are aware, metadata can evolve. Just like a data warehouse, the catalog also needs ownership. The reports themselves need to be maintained, and so does the metadata, because this has to be accurate, current, and relevant for users to continue to trust the information that they're searching on and the information that they receive. Provision of metadata, that is deciding what type of information to capture, is an administrator or a server role. Over time, obviously, this will change and evolve and better reflect the information needs of the organization. Altogether, easy maintenance and increased ownership means that your users get much more relevant information when they actually need it. Now that we've seen the catalog in action, let's look at how this example can be extended and scaled for a large enterprise. SharePoint is a strong and mature collaboration and social platform, and it comes with a wide variety of features. Integration with Office is one of SharePoint's strengths. You can email enable your library and update it through emails. This is brilliant, again, we touched upon this earlier, when the teams are generating weekly reports or monthly financial updates. Leveraging SharePoint's native content management and collaboration features means enterprise-level scalability. After all, the catalog is only a framework. This example is supported by the power and scale of enterprise SharePoint. We've listed here a few examples of such features. For instance, frequently viewed reports give your user base a good idea of what others are doing while on the catalog. Over a period of time, these suggestions will be refined and will also reduce the need for users to even perform a full-fledged search. Recently added reports, another example, which is very much like our little homepage trick we saw there, can surface new reports to target users without their searching for it. Your report history, say for instance you remember a report that you stumbled across a week ago or so, but you don't know what exactly it was called, but you do know you want to get to it again. You could just go through your report history and find it. Follow subject matter experts, ask questions. So all of this leverages the social features of SharePoint to follow report owners or subject matter experts. And finally, integrating tagging, favorite reports, etc. Much like in Facebook or other social networking sites, that's the fad these days. You can integrate the favorite feature with the tagging option, and everything you favorite is also available then on your profile and can be viewed and optionally favorited by others as well. Now again, I'd like to remind you that this is by no means an exhaustive list. Later, after the webinar, we'd be more than happy to talk through to any specific features you think might be valuable to your organization in particular. Now, about scaling and extending the catalog again, one common consideration clients generally have when they begin such an implementation is how to feed all their existing reports, which could be hundreds or thousands in a large enterprise, into the catalog. It's possible to interface with external tools to read the report lists and update the catalog as a one-off exercise. The more verbose information like the report description, the questions, etc., can then be updated separately. SharePoint also integrates very well with third-party tools as far as security is concerned, especially. So in most cases, we can set the catalog up so that users don't have to authenticate themselves each time they access reports outside the catalog. So for example, ClickView, Business Objects, Tableau, etc. Now, coming to determining ROI, we have seen a very simple catalog in action. In a typical enterprise, what do you account for in terms of ROI? First off, it's important to remember that this is a productivity and collaboration tool. The catalog is to BI in your enterprise what search engines are to the internet in general. You can think of both as a gateway to information, and the efficiency often dictates how effectively users are able to use the information that they serve up. Just as with the internet and the website, a bit of rigor in cataloging information and maintaining up-to-date links can be hugely beneficial when it comes to users looking for and finding information on a regular basis. Multiple technologies can be leveraged effectively, but you can still keep the users abstracted from the various server names and URLs and other technicalities that otherwise makes information access a chore. This brings the focus back to information, which is where it always should be, to the metrics, the business content, the owners of the reports, etc. This sort of a cataloging tool also brings more power to the users, in the sense users can share their own reports with the right audience, and the security levels, the monitoring, the administration that's available can help ensure there isn't a proliferation of unnecessary reports in the organization. Over a period of time, the catalog will also help to streamline reporting, with statistics about who uses what and what type of reports are more sought after. Duplicates can be weeded out and or merged. This would also be a huge bonus to the IT team, I'm sure, in terms of identifying resource utilization, managing infrastructure, and clearing up bottlenecks. It will also help refine important metadata to serve the users more effectively and reflect the company's information organization much better. Thinking in the long term, hundreds of reports all detailed with the metrics, the information that they hold, revision history, and other details, and each with a clear owner, can lead the way to faster, leaner, collaborative, and finally much more efficient BI in the organization. So one recent example was a pilot, but the pilot audience itself was the executive team in the organization, so you can't get higher than that. Previously, they were used to pulling things from various files, many of which were printed out and placed in a single binder for secure consolidation. Now, the EOC members simply need their iPad or PC, as we've demonstrated now, rather than the binder in order to have all of the information they need for a meeting. And moreover, seeing how the executives have taken to this tool, the IT team is now planning on releasing all future projects via the catalog, rather than create multiple standalone systems and more URLs for the users to bookmark. With that, we come to the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope you found the session useful.